just going to be flinging my arms around most of the time. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Coming into wuxi posture, feet hip width apart. Weight a little more towards the front of the feet. A bend to the knees, a little weight to the end of the tailbone. Stacking up the spine all the way to the top of the head, lifting the head as though suspended from the heavens, and a little bit of space under the arms. Just deepening our breathing, feeling the ground under our feet, listening to things around us, arriving in the present moment. I think with all that's going on in the world, it's a good time to be meditating, to be present, not to let yourself fall back asleep, not to ignore what's happening. There's a big drive in our culture to numb ourselves to emotional stimuli because we are not well equipped often to be in the presence of emotion. So I want to do a little bit of some of the work that I did in school. That's called SOPHIA, School of Philosophy of Healing in Action. My school is originally called TAI, the Acupuncture Institute, and then TAI SOPHIA before it was Maryland University of Integrative Health. And SOPHIA is all about understanding yourself as an observer of your own emotions and of the world around you as phenomena. So what's going on in the world right now is really scary phenomenologically, and the stories are complex and deep. There's a lot of story around what's going on. As I'm talking, you can rock a little bit front and back. I'm noticing I'm doing that to keep chi moving. Or you can also, we've done these figure eights before, onto the forefoot of one leg, and then the heel, and then across to the other forefoot, and then the heel. So you're distributing your weight sort of in this figure eight movement. So there's a lot of really scary phenomena happening, and that it is totally appropriate to react to that in a particular way. But as much as possible, we want to act rather than reacting, and we want to emote, want to be in response, in balance with what's happening. So if you are noticing particular emotions are present, and you notice that you want to turn away from them, I want to remind you that emotions are simply energy in motion, and each of them serves a purpose. They aren't inherently in balance. They aren't inherently unsafe. It is good to be emotional in the presence of what's happening right now, because that means you're alive and you're awake. So don't fall back asleep. Don't ignore it. So I know I've been doing this kind of work a lot lately, but I'm doing it because it's so important. I want to, what we call, walk the circle through the 5 elements and their emotions, and help us to understand how each of them serves in the presence of the riots, as we mourn so many people whose lives have been lost and disrupted, entire cultures uprooted. We'll do Buddha holding up the earth, which is a very metal movement. It has to do with grief. So we inhale the arms up and down as we exhale. Inhale up, overhead, and exhale down, back to under the belly button. So there's a lot of grief. There's been a lot of loss around this. And what grief allows us to do is to understand value. When we grieve something, we let go of its actuality, but we are holding on. Here we're letting go, but we're coming back down and holding on to something of value that came from that connection. It's a connection of a loss. So there's a gem that can be received from these losses. They're not meaningless because it's waking us up. This senseless loss can have meaning through our actions, through the actions of the whole society right now as we struggle to comprehend what's happening and counteract it. And the other thing about metal comes with responsibility. Feeling like the weight of the world is on your shoulders, Buddha holding up the earth, but you are small. You can't hold up the earth. So this movement can help you to sort of recognize your place in the world, to understand that you are simultaneously a microcosm and a speck. Particularly if you do this outside and you can look up into the sky while you do it. But if there's thunderstorms like we're supposed to be today, then don't do it outside. No outside in thunderstorms. So I cannot single-handedly erase racism or correct the police force or bring their lives back, right? Nobody can do that. So working in the presence of metal, of grief, and responsibility helps us to understand what we can do, to reconnect with just being human. I am on this earth, I am not a god. Who am I to control what's going on in the world? I am nothing, right? But I am on this earth, and there are certain things that I can do, right? So next we're going to transition into water. I'm going to do the simplest version of water. So rotating, and the palms are facing the direction that you're rotating. Keeping your knees straight as much as you can. Well, they're bent, but they're head on, they're aligned with the feet. They're not twisting. So water is about resource, understanding what we have at our disposal. And it's also about fear, and it's also about faith. So there's obviously a lot of fear going on right now. If you know somebody who's in the protests, or if you are protesting, understandably there's a lot of fear. If you're married to someone on the police force, or if you are on the police force or ever have been, I'm sure there's a lot of fear there as well. Will your loved one be okay? Will your squadron be okay? So in the presence of that fear, we have to understand what our resources are. to remain firm in what we have. And only when we know what we have will we know what action we can take. There's also a few different kinds of fear. There's the fear of, in this moment, I am in front of a bear and I might die. That's one. It's a pretty poignant one. And the point there is fight or flight, right? You connect back to your resources. You let go of anything that doesn't serve in that moment and you get the hell out, or you fight, right? So that fight or flight kind of fear is a very easy sort of answer a lot of the time. You fight, you flee, or you die. But then there's the more subtle fear of, do I have enough? That belongs to the water as well. There's even another kind of fear that belongs to fire that we'll talk about when we get there. Do I have enough? And there's no point in worrying, do I have enough, right? All you can really do is take inventory. And if there's something that you can do to shore up your resources, you do that. If you do your qigong, then you'll have good balance, because one of the ways that do I have enough can show up out of balance is hoarding, which we know a lot about right now. So understanding that there are others who also have needs right now. Do they have enough? Do I have so much that I can give back, right? What do I really need? What is really essential? Water is also about essence. What is essential? What do I need to live? What can I give? Water is resourceful. So once you know what your resources are, you can take action. So we'll do this beach volley wood. Again, making sure that you keep your knees in line with your feet. I don't want you to wrench your knees around. Twisting through the abdomen, through here. Inhale up, arms, palms up, one across the front of the body and the other behind. So the one that is on the side that I'm turning towards goes behind me, and the other one goes in front. So here, I know what my resources are, I know what I have to give, I know more about the extent of the action that I can take. What are my limits? Now it's just a matter of determining what those actions should be. And we're in wood, and wood is about anger. And anger gets a bad rap. But anger is essential to countering injustice. Anger is simply an emotional response to a perceived injustice. Perceived injustice. In this case, there is a lot of very real injustice. This anger is so appropriate. It's so appropriate. So, in the presence of anger, gosh, my voice is doing all the, I don't even have to think about it. There's sounds that go with the elements, and my voice is, I'm in shout now. I'm doing wood, and I was just in groan, which is water. Anyway, so what is about clarity as well? Clarity of speech, clarity of action, clarity of intention, knowing what you have to do, and setting forth a plan, and following through on all of the steps to do it. So maybe you checked in with your resources and you determined you don't have enough right now. So what action are you going to take? You're going to do what you can to get care of yourself before you give anything, right? That's the action for you to take. Maybe you checked in and you have some resources. Maybe you have some money. Maybe you have some time or some energy. So the actions you can take will be yours to determine. Maybe you donate some money or some time or some energy to someone who needs it. Maybe you can protest. Maybe You can check in with someone who you know who's protesting. Maybe you can donate to a bail fund or to Black Lives Matter. Maybe you can start a petition to your governor or to the head of the police force in your states or counties. It all depends on the resources that you have, which is why we had to go through water. And now you know what you can do with that. So it's time to research and brainstorm and begin to take action. And this is how the anger can be used for good. Now, if you are in a situation where you don't have the resources, and say you have a chronic illness and you have chronic fatigue, and there's just no way that you're going to be able to contribute to this right now, all you have to worry about is your energy. And just by having done this work to understand what you have served your community, because you're not beginning, for example, a petition that you don't have the energy to finish, right? All right. Hopefully we spent a good amount of time here for everybody. Coming back to Wuxi for a moment. Following wood, we have fire, and fire is about connection and joy as well as lack of joy. So fire with this, I guess I should start a movement. What fire movement do I want to do? I just always default to this one. So these few are kind of twisty. If you are done twisting, you can just do this in place. If your back is like, no more twisting. They're all a little twisty. So I've got one arm above and one arm below, and the arm that's above is in the direction that I'm twisting towards. And as I reach the end of the twisting, that arm sort of falls over and I flip, and this is sort of a playful motion. We're doing this across the chest because all of the fire channels move through the chest and in the hands. So fire is about connection, and it's about joy, and it's about play. And in the presence of what's going on, it's kind of hard to think about joy and play, but it's summer, and that's kind of where we are right now. Summer and fire they're the same. But really, I think about that connection and reaching out to others and making connections in order to be effective together, because no single person can take on what's happening right now. The actions of one single person will never be enough right now unless that person is the President of the United States, and that's not happening. So what we can do is to connect and reach out to one another. And again, if that action is to reach out to someone who's protesting and ask them what they need, or to reach out to someone you know on the police force and ask them their opinion, make those connections. We are in this together. Have conversations with your friends and your loved ones about what's going on right now. Know that you're not alone in this situation. As you do this, I urge you not to ask your Black friends to explain things to you. They have enough burden right now. Do your own research, please. You may ask your Black friends what they need as individuals, but not as Black people. Their experience is not yours to suck up. You have to respect their individuality. this is a sort of a big conversation that you start. Maybe it's a Facebook group that you join. Maybe it's that petition. Maybe that petition turns into a group. Everybody who signs it. Maybe it's just putting a sign in your window. Whatever you can do to feel connected to this cause, this is your call to that. And there's the flip side of fire. If you don't have the resources, then you're not going to feel that you're able to connect. And that's appropriate as well. If you don't have the resources, it's okay to disconnect right now. Not everybody can be in this fight, and we have to respect that. Now, the other side of fear that comes with fire is anxiety. So if there's poor connection, poor quality of connection, then we'll feel alone and disjointed and anxious, right? So doing this motion, see if you can let go. If any worry about whether you'll do a good job at this, whether people will like you, it's not about you. It's not about you. So the brocade that we did, if you go back to the brocades, those who are Patreon subscribers, brocade that we did, that's the wagging the tail thing, that's a heart fire dispelling thing. So if you do that motion, that will help you to let go of that. Am I going to do well enough? Are people going to like me? Sort of thing. Are people going to like what I'm doing? Letting go of that. Spend a long time in fire because it's summer. This is kind of the perfect time of day to be doing fire too, because the time of day for heart is 11 to 1. And so if you do fire movements during that time of day, during the summer, that's what we call a Harari treatment. And you're just sucking up all of that summer as an aside. All right, last we have earth. So we're gonna do bear swimming that we've done so many times. Palms up away from us as we exhale, and then inhaling, palms come back around. Palms away from each other and swim like a little breaststroke. It's like a breaststroke, but with an offering. So, we know what we have to offer, and we've made connections, and now we can offer it. Earth is about sympathy, loyalty. It's also about worry. So as a lot of us are worrying about our friends and our loved ones right now, that's a waste of energy, actually. Worry is not a healthy emotion. It's okay, you know, if it fuels you to take action that needs to be taken, to be worried for a little bit. But if you get stuck there, and your wheels are spinning and spinning and spinning, then you're spending energy on something that's not productive, right? So here the earth is offering us the capacity for empathy and sympathy and understanding. We can understand the experience of another. And that can be painful, but it is good, it is desirable. We should be connected in that way right now. Only when we're connected are we able to have that sympathy. offer understanding and listening, which really belongs to the water, but it goes with this. And I would say that making a donation sort of falls under both water and earth. You're saying, here, let me help you, right? This is what I have to offer you. All right, and we have to do the reverse. Exhaling the back of the hands together, inhaling the palms towards us and spreading. So maybe you're someone who needs to receive something right now. Maybe you need to receive sympathy. Yes, that's okay. You may. I give you permission if you need that. Give yourself permission. That's really what you need. That's what this movement can help you do. Give yourself permission to be nourished, to be supported. Understand that we are one, and really feel that deep in your core by doing this. This is a great movement if you can enlist somebody else in your household to do Qigong with you, to do facing one another. Feel that connection as you nourish and are nourished by one another. I urge you, though, to only do that if you can keep good boundaries. So if you find that you feel drained or overly excited doing that, please stop. The way to think about this is like two balls that are just touching one another, but they're not overlapping, and one isn't getting smaller and feeding the other and vice versa, right? So that's called interface, where energetically you touch one another, but you don't become one another. And you don't feed one another completely. It's more just to feel that push and pull of the chi. Because really the chi that you're playing with right now is the chi of the universe. You are receiving sunlight and air into your body. So I'm hoping, as we come to a close, that this conversation around the emotions in the riots has helped somebody. I think it's invaluable to be present right now, not go back to sleep. So all of these emotions can help you to be in the presence of these and feel safe in your body. You have a way to express them, right? They're just energy in motion, and these motions let that energy move the way that it needs to move. So if you find yourself feeling very afraid, you can go to water and then go through the whole cycle from there. If you find yourself feeling very lonely, you can go to fire and then do the whole cycle from there. If you find yourself feeling very angry, you can go to wood and do the whole cycle from there. But I urge you to do the whole cycle, not just the one, because I want you to come full circle, because they generate one another. So hopefully that helps you, and you can bookmark this video if you're a patron and keep coming back to it in the future. And we'll go ahead and close down, inhaling up, bending the elbows, and exhaling clean energy down into the front of the body. Inhale up, bend the elbows. Exhale, bringing clean energy into the back of the body. Inhale up, bend the elbows, and bring that energy right down through your core, pressing any impurities out into the earth at least 3 feet deep. Inhale up, palms together. Pressing into your sternum for a moment, listening to your own heart in this moment. Today is today, and I'm glad it's today. That is all I have to know right now. It's okay to just be present to myself for a moment. It's a precursor to helping. Inhale up in gratitude to the heavens, for the sun and the air. And exhale down in gratitude to the earth for the nourishment and the holding. Inhale, palms together again. We'll bow to one another in gratitude for our practice. Thank you for joining me today. I hope that you got a lot out of it. I'm trying to really serve right now those who are struggling emotionally with what's going on, which I hope actually is a lot of people. If this doesn't touch you, then please start in earth and feel that empathy. This is a really volatile time, as it should be. So yeah, that's where I am today, and I hope that you enjoyed it. I'll be at it again tomorrow at 11 a.m. I'm not sure exactly how it's going to show up, so show up with me and find out. And if you aren't already, join me on patreon.com/3chargeswellness for access to recorded sessions, and I'll see you next time.